Good afternoon, everyone. Transitioning our existing system, a new way to consider supply chains. Looks like that's already happening. Help from the Chinese. Export curbs on fertilizer are going to worsen global food supplies. India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia. Wheat production, 19-year low, USDA, and that's the rosy report. Durham wheat shortages inbound, 90% increase in that, almost doubling. Strangeness. World food prices 10-year peak, up 1.7% on the month, showing 60% over the year. I guess I'm missing the math in there somewhere. Supermarkets now trying to disguise the lack of availability in foods, spreading it out on the shelf. Economists and Wall Street are sounding the alarm. Investors are ignoring the parallels between 1929, 99, 2007, and today. We are absolutely in the everything bubble, and investors are now betting on the Fed, threatening to raise rates 6 to 7 times through 2024. If the debt ceiling is raised, there will be an economic catastrophe. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And we're going to start right over here. Prince of Wales, World Economic Forum, Davos. Point 3. An incredible opportunity to create an entirely new sustainable industries, products and services, and supply chains. You notice the old supply chains breaking down right now? What would you envision they're going to replace it with as a entirely new supply chain? Because this is going to happen in parallel to transition the existing system. So what's over there right now for a parallel supply chain that we're not seeing or aware of? And if anybody knows, please leave it in the comment box below the video. Because what I'm seeing on the supply chain side is an enormous amount of non-deliverables, stoppages, slowdowns. And here's a real interesting one. Restaurants are trying to front-run inflation by charging the in-diners 5% tax on food that hasn't arrived yet but will. Quite the interesting read from the Cotton Patch, right on each and every table. Food's going up faster, they can adjust for it, so they're just going to charge you more. And if that becomes the norm, then what are you paying, a food tax to dine in the restaurant in addition to the tip and in addition to the price of your dish? At some point, you're just going to dine at home. And I like how this really breaks down the situation in our farming communities across the United States, Canada, and other parts of the world. And what you see in the back of the pickup truck, all that is used for just one single combine. If that stops, so does your food. Keep that in mind. And out of Dunkin' Donuts here, due to supply chain issues, we're temporarily offering an abbreviated menu of donuts. Okay, hold on a second. It's mainly sugar, flour for the dough, and oils to deep fry it. What is wrong with that supply chain breakdown there with that simple ingredient list? It doesn't include the little sparkles. Okay, maybe that's where they're not being able to offer you something. But the excuses and the images keep piling up. And what I've noticed this myself here, that's why I'm bringing it to your attention, where stores will start to spread things out on the shelves, just one deep, to make it appear as if the shelves are full. That's all the exact same product, just spread out one deep to make the appearance that there's something on the shelf. Because if they put it together like they did in the old days, there'd only be 3 shelves full and the rest of it would be empty. We are living in an illusion. It's called fronting merchandise. Zero Hedge has a good rundown here. Retailers lining store shelves with props to hide supply shortages. Now, as it was explained, it's to stop panic buying. Because if you walk into a store and you see everything's empty, and there's an enormous amount of pictures saying everything's empty, people are going to buy more. How many boxes of macaroni and cheese can you line up one deep to give the illusion that there's a huge amount of supply in the supermarket? What if someone comes in and buys all those boxes? It's a completely empty shelf again. They're just going to get something else and line it up one deep. How long can they keep doing this? Because a Rasmussen report here, October 11th and 12th, have you noticed shortages of basic items in the stores where you live? 62% of the people responded yes. So to avoid panic buying, fronting is the new thing. Now speaking of fronting, I'm going to put the two different dates here, 1950, 1990. I'd prefer to live in the 1950s world myself, but you know where we're going on the right. Straight over to the Dutch Ag Minister calling for a sustainability tax on food. Yep, a green tax just so you can eat. And what happens if you don't have enough carbon credits in the new carbon trading system with your personal allocated credits, that you don't have enough to cover the green tax in the food you're going to buy, and you can't buy the food because you can't afford the carbon tax on it? This is where we're going in the new world. But of course, getting to that new world, we need to grow food to feed people so they can still exist when we get there. China curbing exports on fertilizer. Now, why would they do that? Oh, can't import what they need for the base ingredients. Slow down in that. Factories are closed. Energy shortages. Outbound. Wait a second, they don't have enough for their own internal consumption at the moment. So it's pretty much a firewall of exports going out, regardless if they say temporarily. So some shipments would be rerouted for domestic markets, meaning what was going to be sent out is staying in China so we can grow our own food. That's basically what the first paragraph says. And then the second paragraph is incredibly important. The fertilizer is not going to reach these destinations right here, India, Pakistan, and Southeast Asia. So if you look at food insecurity and the percentage of a person's wages they pay for food, Pakistan is near the top of the list. I think it's 45% of every dollar made in Pakistan goes for food out of a monthly budget. The percentage of 40. Can you imagine spending 45% of your food? And then it's going to go even higher because they don't have fertilizers to get high yields. India is going to get hit, and then all of Southeast Asia. So I'm looking at this saying, wait a second. Those are major bread baskets. When they don't have the fertilizer, what's going to happen? That's one thing on crop yields, but then the prices to even pay to get the fertilizer is going to drive up prices too. We're looking at urea futures spiking to record highs. Seems like we're in this downward spiral, this kind of feedback loop. And right off of Ag Week, it's a madhouse. Well, since we're in October, it's a haunted house. Organic U.S. soy prices hit a record. But see, here's where we got to go into the gray area and split the hair. Regular soy prices are about 7-year highs, but since organic soy is shipped in containers, we have a shortage and record prices. They can't get the containers to ship the organics. So this is going to be its own little custom feedback loop within a larger feedback loop of grains itself. So moving into wheat production, reduced to a 19-year low. And remember, that is a rosy USDA forecast to try to stabilize markets. And they're still willing to come to almost a 20-year low. We're looking at a full 18% reduction in wheat. Now, the spring wheat, the durum wheat, winter wheat, they're all different. But this is a combination so far coming into harvest season, and they already know they're going to go incredibly low. So when they start to book that into the silos, that number is going to drop from 18, 20, 25, 30, 45, 50, or even higher, because a lot of farmers are saying they've lost 70%, and they're only just taking that for silage, and sometimes they can't even do that because it's such damaged and just completely drought hardened in the fields, so there's nothing. Now, the price of durum's mushroomed 90%. So that's almost double for the price of durum wheat. And for those of you, durum wheat makes your pasta, pizza crusts. That's what durum wheat's for. And it's not only the Canadian durum wheat, it's the United States durum wheat as well. So here's a statement that should rock you to the core, and you know we're getting right to the cusp of food instability globally. There will not be enough durum wheat for the demand that exists globally. They're already telling you there's not going to be enough, and food prices are going to skyrocket anything made from this type of wheat for the pastas. Are you ready for that? Say goodbye to your noodles. And here's another thing that disgusts me when I read this. A dire situation is hitting the durum wheat producers across the globe. Companies are buying at record high prices, and hear the blame game. The farmers are holding on to the wheat and driving the price up. No, they're not. This is a deflection to push onto a single group to have responsibility and blame for your rising food prices. Not governments of the world not discussing the grand solar minimum for the last 20 years. Nope. And it's going to be like this. This is a repeat in history. When the food starts to fail, they need to blame people. Which groups of people? Well, in the 1600s, it was the witches. Right now, it seems to be the food producers themselves. Now, this is going to shift. It's an ever-shifting blame game like the sand dunes in a desert. It's going to move around with the prevailing political winds. So you can see it already. It's uncontrollable, and it's a reset button in our society. It's happening now, and you might want to prepare just a sliver going forward here. Because other things that make no sense to me, the math on this world food price hitting a 10-year peak, we all agree, it's at least 10. It'll probably be higher by the time this is revised in November. But world vegetable oil prices are up 1.7% on the month and showing a year-on-year rise of 60%. Okay, there's a huge disconnect there. And see, with that trajectory rise, that 1.7 should have begun in the beginning of the cycle. It shouldn't. I don't see anywhere it's peaking and then drop down to a smidgen 2% rise. These numbers seem a little out of line to me. And another part that made little sense, knowing what I just showed you with the global grain, projected record global cereal production in 2021. Do they not read the same reports I do? Is this just they make things up to stabilize markets or what? But then in the last sentence it said, but this would be outpaced by forecast consumption. They're already saying there's a deficit built into it, but then when you trace it down to individual grains like this durum wheat, that's going to be its own exceptional category. And they're telling you it's going to be outpaced by forecast consumption. But it's not going to be a record for cereal production globally. U.S. inflation year-over-year price change, car rentals 42%, steaks 22%, bacon 19.3%. Gas is now upwards of 60% increase, even since the last 30 days from the end of September until now. So things are going to continue upward. Because marching forward, this is just my own opinion, if there's this much shortage already and supermarkets working in collusion to stop panic buying, and we're seeing everything in the supply chains locking up, including your Amazon purchases that aren't getting to your house because it's locked up too. If they are, they're super incredible late. All the food prices spiking, crop losses globally, especially the durum wheat for pastas, etc. It's going to be your own responsibility to get ready for yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. Emergency food supplies, My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life. You might want to take a look and see what My Patriot Supply has in terms of storable foods and preparedness items to get you and your families ready for this grand solar minimum series of events that are unfolding at the moment. That link's in the description box below, along with all of tonight's stories, links, images, so you can chase it down and do your own research. You shouldn't believe what I say. You need to do your own research on this. See if you can find your own dots that are connecting. I'm just presenting the information to you. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.